Hey everybody, it's Mom of Two, Wife of One. So if you guys saw my video last week, I said, I'm not going to do a video this week because they're not going to have a real episode. I lied. I was mistaken. They did have a real episode last night. So here I am to give my review and recap of Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 16. We have been talking about these couples for 4 months and we are still not done. Yay! But next week is decision day. Thankfully, we are almost there, guys. We are so close to the end. But for those of you who are new to my channel, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As you can see from the title, I do a review and recap of Married at First Sight every week on my channel. I also have a couple of things on my channel, so feel free to poke around and you can see my daughter, you can see my son, you can possibly see my husband, you can hear me talk about marriage and being a mommy and all that good stuff. But that's not what you guys are here for today. For those of you who have come back, thank you guys so much for coming back. Continue to comment below and make sure you click the notification bell and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos. So let's talk about the episode last night. We are about, at least on the show, about 4 to 5 days or 3 to 5 days away from decision day. So this is the time where the couples are going on their final date as part of this experiment. They're talking with their loved ones about, what should I do? I don't know, my conflicting feelings, and basically trying to gather as much last minute information as they can to make an informed decision on decision day to decide if we're going to stay married or we're going to get a divorce. So I don't even know where to start. I guess we'll start with Lindy and Miguel because I didn't have a lot of stuff to say about them. She talked to a friend or a sister and she said to the friend, she wonders if their problems will continue or if the past week is just a temporary thing in their marital armor. Just kind of like, we had a great 7 weeks, but the last week has been kind of weird. So I don't really know if this is an indication that things are going to get worse or we're going to go back to being great. And I think that Lindy is not a bad person. I think Lindy is very naive. I think having 7 weeks of no quote unquote arguments or issues isn't realistic. And even in those 7 weeks, they did have some issues. They had the whole blow up about being on his insurance and her taking his last name. So there were already things that were coming up. But I think she's like, but that was just little. And this past week, like he's been mean and he's been this. And I feel, and I said this before, she feels like she's been holding herself back from saying certain things to him because she's worried about disrespecting him, because she can be overly passionate and she can get loud and she can curse and she can get, mean with it. But she's been holding herself back because she doesn't want to upset him. I feel like he's trying to be sensitive to her because of her background with being repressed through religion and, her fight to gain control again. I personally feel like he has been holding himself back as well because he doesn't want to trigger something in her. But as a result of that, they both are like blowing up at inopportune times because they've been holding back so much. And I think it's just normal. So even her like, it's just this week and I don't know. Girl, you're supposed to have something. Like the marriage is not supposed to be smooth sailing. No relationship is like that. I'm not saying you're supposed to fight every single day either. But there's always going to be something that comes up. You guys are still getting to know each other, even though in this 2 months you got married, you had a honeymoon, you moved in together, you find that you love this person. That's all well and good, but there's still so much to learn about them. There's still so many other things that are going to come up in your relationship. And just like, which I think is interesting, because she keeps preaching to him that no matter what you see about me, if you love me and you're my husband, you're supposed to love me through all of this. But yet he's showing a different side and she's not singing that same tune of, I'm supposed to love you through all of this. It's like, but this is hard and I don't know. But if he said something like that, you would get mad at him. So it's kind of interesting that she's not applying that same ideology to him when he quote unquote acts out of character. I think that is very interesting. They did go to a winery for their final date to reconnect. And one thing he did say to her is that her strong personality overwhelms him. And I guess I can understand if you've never dealt with something like that, that can be a lot to deal with. And obviously that's a decision you have to make. Are you able to deal with this? And 8 weeks technically on paper is not really a long amount of time. But if you really look at it and view, okay, let's see. How much of those 8 weeks was she overbearing or overwhelming or distracted or, whatever, compared to how much of that was she understanding and listening and a good partner and all these other great things. I feel like that's probably the best way for people to make this decision is, yes, 8 weeks in somebody's life is not a great indication of who they are overall, but this is really all you have to go on. So just look at those 8 weeks and figure out, okay, did I see more of this person that I really like and admire and love, or more of this person that made me a little overly cautious? Because everybody has two sides to them. And again, you got to decide if you're willing to deal with that side that may not be so pleasant, but also look at, okay, how often did I see that side? Did I see that side throughout the whole 8 weeks? And it's like, okay, maybe not. Or did I only see that side for maybe a couple of days? It's like, okay, well, you can deal with that. I don't know. I feel like Lindy and Miguel are boring to me. I don't dislike Lindy. She is annoying to me, though, and she's naive and she's immature. Miguel, I said from the beginning that I thought he was going to be a little controlling. And he has some of those elements, but I think he didn't realize he had those elements. And I think sometimes when you're with somebody who's very different from what you're used to, they're going to bring out things in you that you didn't know were there. And I think that's a good thing because at least you're aware of it and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that I could be snarky like this, or I didn't know that I could be outwardly mean like this. I didn't know that being sleep deprived would make me react to a person in this way because I've never been around a person who's sleep deprived that I actually care about. So now I know. So I think it's important that he knows these things about himself now. But again, marriage is putting a mirror to your face and you're realizing, oh, I do this thing, or I say this thing, or I react in this way. It's not always pretty, and people aren't always in a good place to really accept those flaws that they're being exposed to now, especially on national TV. So he can either decide, okay, this wasn't worth it, or, I'm roll with it. So since next week's decision day, I'll give my predictions. I think that Lindy and Miguel both want to be married, and I think they genuinely care about each other. They have their issues, and I think their issues haven't quite been resolved yet. But I think for the most part, they do a good job of really communicating with each other. And while I don't care for them as a couple, I do think they're both going to say yes, and that they will. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think they're both going to say yes on decision day. Let's go. I'm going to save Krysten and Mitch for last because I got a lot of thoughts about that. But let's go to Alexis and Justin. I said this before. I will say it again. I don't think Alexis is a bad person. I do not think she was ready to be married. I don't think that she got married for the right reason. In terms of, oh, I need to get married because I'm tired of running. I am a runner. I run from responsibility. I run from commitment. And I don't want to do that anymore, so I'm going to sign up for this show. I don't think that was a good idea at all to get married. You can't force that out of somebody just by slapping them with this thing of, oh, okay, it's an 8-week commitment. Like, that's not going to make you not want to run anymore. It just means that it's harder for you to run right now. I don't think that was the best move for her. I think that if nothing else, this experience has taught her that marriage is a lot harder than she probably thought it would be. I think that she is learning more about, and I think all of them are, they're learning more about, okay, the way that I am, the things that I do, the way that I handle situations is not that those things are bad, but it's that those things are going to need to be tweaked depending on who I am with. In the past, I've dealt with this kind of man, and as a result of dealing with this kind of man, I've been able to do A, B, C, D, and E. However, Justin is not like those kinds of men, so now I have to reprogram myself and treat him a little differently or talk to him a little bit differently, be a little more sensitive, talk about my feelings a little bit more when I didn't have to before. So it is an adjustment. And again, not everybody is willing to make that adjustment. But realistically, no matter who you're with, there's some kind of adjustment that needs to be made because that's just how it is. And I don't think she's really up for the challenge, personally. I do think that she has grown through this process and she's more understanding of, I didn't realize I was like this. I realize that now. That's something I'm trying to work on. And so I appreciate that I'm able to work on not being so overly dependent, and I'm able to work on getting in touch with my feelings and not being afraid of my feelings. It's still a little for me, but I'm a lot better at really expressing myself than I was before the process started. I think that is great. I don't think she was ready to get married, and I don't think she's going to say yes on decision day. I think Justin will say yes because he really wants this. And I'm not saying that Alexis doesn't want it. I think that she genuinely cares about Justin as a person. I think she genuinely even cares about him as a husband. I don't think she believes that he's the right husband for her. And so I think she's going to say no, but I think Justin is going to say yes. Just my personal opinion. But I think it also depends on who they ask first. That's always the thing. If they ask her first and she says no, then Justin will say no. If they ask Justin first, he is going to say yes. And Alexis, I don't believe she wants to hurt him, but I also believe that she's going to remain true to herself before anything else, as she should. So I think that if they ask him first, he will say yes and she will say no. But I like that he was honest and he said, there have been plenty of times where it was like out and out no for me, but now I'm really thinking about things and I genuinely don't know. And I did think it was interesting. Well, one thing he said, he talked to his mother, and one thing he said was, I just thought that as soon as I gave up Maya, it's going to be an automatic yes from Alexis. Why? I was so confused about that because he had that same attitude last week, but this is the first time he's like out and out really verbalized it. Why would you think that giving up the dog automatically meant Alexis was going to say yes? Her yes was not determined on whether or not you kept the dog. That had nothing to do with it. That was a personal choice. And yes, that shows her that you're in this marriage and you're taking it seriously. But again, her saying yes or no wasn't dependent on whether or not you're taking it seriously. I don't think she had that I don't think that was a question in her mind. And Krysten's kind of doing the same thing, which is why I want to save her for last, her and Mitch. But saying yes or no on decision day is supposed to be based off of you. It's not supposed to be based off of what the other person is doing, what the other person is thinking. It's based off of you and having a very, mature conversation with yourself. Is this the person that I can see myself spending the rest of my life with? Is this the person that's going to make me happy? Is this the person that's going to bring out the best in me? That's a decision you have to make with yourself. You giving away that dog has nothing to do with Alexis. Not really. Like, you're doing it for her and you're doing it to prove a point to her, but she didn't ask you to prove that point. She didn't ask you to prove that point. She never once said, once you do this, I'm yours and it's automatic yes. No, her yes has to do with whether or not she can still, for lack of a better term, tolerate you for the rest of her life and love you for the rest of her life. And does she want to be in this relationship? It has nothing to do with the dog. So it was really naive of him to think that, oh, well, this is all I got to do. No, it's more than that. It's so much more than that. So I thought that was just really strange. He talked to his mom about, how Alexis wants him to be a little more demonstrative in bed. It's a little more, aggressive when it comes to sex. And he was telling his mom, like, that's not really me. I'm a little more reserved. And he had a conversation with Alexis about it and basically was like, I'll try to be more in that area. If you can occasionally try to kind of flip it and maybe you initiate sex more. She kind of wants, I guess, to be pursued and wants him to initiate and be aggressive and do whatever. And he's like, that's not really me, but I'm willing to step outside of my box and do that for you if you're willing to, take charge sometimes. Because I need that balance. And I think that's a fair thing to ask. Basically, if I'm willing to step outside of my box, I'm just asking you to step outside of your box so that we can both be satisfied. I think that's completely fair of him to ask. And she said she'd be, she's okay with doing that. So I think that's not bad, right? But so, guys, this other thing, he's telling his mother all this stuff, and she's like, well, it sounds like you got to get freaky. And he's like, I'm like, Mom, I can't believe it. Then why the heck would you bring it up to your mother? Why aren't you talking to your brother? I thought that was kind of interesting. His brother is the one who, like, basically raised him or helped to raise him. He's very close to his brother. So when it comes to talking about sex with your wife and how you're not pleasing her or you're not being pleased or whatever, why wouldn't you be having that conversation with your brother? I thought that was kind of strange. And I know some people talk to their parents about sex, so that's, do you, I guess. But I just thought it was weird that his brother wasn't a part of that conversation. It just seemed like that would have happened. As soon as he and Alexis had sex the first time and it was whack or it didn't last long or whatever, I felt like that would have been the time for him to call his brother and be like, hey, man, this happened. She wants me to do this. I don't really know how to do that. What should I do kind of thing. It's kind of surprising that we never saw that interaction. But then I did put that in my notes. And he said he's more reserved than his wife, but he also feels like the intimacy is all about her pleasure. And it had me thinking, has he even talked to her about what he actually wants? Now, at the dinner, they had a dinner together, and he did say, can you be, initiate more, whatever, but I don't know if that's hitting everything. I don't know if that's all he requires to be satisfied, because he didn't mention how, I feel like the intimacy is all about you. or the pleasure is all about you. He said that to his mother. I don't know if he's ever said that to Alexis before. But you need to communicate those things. And I was talking to my husband about it last night, and just like I said, last week, he agreed with me. If she wants certain things in the bedroom, or if he wants certain things in the bedroom, you either have that conversation before sexy time or during sexy time. You can make it sexy and be like, oh, baby, pull my hair, spank me here, put my leg up here. Like, you can do nonverbal communication or verbal communication during sex and make it sexy and not make it feel like you are yelling directions at somebody. Like, there's a way to get your point across, but it just feels like they're both kind of awkward with the thing because it took so long for them to have sex, and because it was so long since he's actually had sex, since he's been celibate so long, that it's just awkward for them. And they could get it together. I just don't think either of them are really going to try to get it together, personally. I did think their dinner was really nice. He took her to this place that was surrounded by sunflowers because that's her favorite flower, and he gave her a bouquet of sunflowers. It was very pretty and very intentional. Like, I listened to you, I pay attention, I know you would like this. And one thing I will say whatever you want about Alexis in terms of her being gossipy, in terms of her being mean, in terms of her just running her mouth to everybody about everything and being everybody's business. That girl can dress her behind off. You hear me? She has the cutest dresses. When she is dressed up, face is perfection. The makeup is perfect. The hair is cute. The dress, I'm like, okay, she can dress. That's one thing I will never take away from Alexis. She can dress her behind off, and she looks flawless every single time. I'm gonna give her that. But again, oh, I did have a question. She said to Justin that she's his number one fan and she wants things to work out, but she's nervous because she honestly doesn't know what her decision would be. Do you guys believe her? Do you really believe that she doesn't know which way she's going to go? I feel like she's trying to save face by saying, oh, I'm 90% yes, and I really want this, and I just don't know. I think she fully knows that she's going to say no. Personally, I don't think there's a doubt in her mind, but I think that, you have to play the game when you're on the show. You can never say, oh, I know without a shadow of a doubt what I'm going to say. Everybody's going to be like, I just don't know. So many things to consider. But I feel like at this point, she knows. I think she knows, and I think she knows that she's going to say no. That's my personal opinion. And again, I don't think they necessarily were a bad match, but I think that on paper, they're a good match. But I don't think Alexis was in a position to be married. So I don't think she should have been chosen for the show, personally. That's my opinion. I just don't think so. She did say one thing that I thought was really great advice. She said one thing she's learning, or that she has learned through this process, is trying not to put the worry before the problem. I was like, I like that. I might take that with me. So I like that. And if you guys don't understand what that means, it basically means stop worrying about something that has yet to happen. I really like that. And I think that is a great lesson for everybody to learn, but especially in marriage, especially in this experiment where you're waiting for the other shoe to drop because things seem too good to be true, or because you're, tapping into some of your trauma from the past, that you are constantly waiting to be judged or scrutinized or abused in some way because of what you've gone through. And it's like, well, wait till the problem comes and then you can worry about it and then you can figure out what you're going to do. So I did like that. We're going to go to Stasha and Nate. They argue about the same things over and over and over and over again. I will say that in the first few episodes of their saga, it's been about Stasha, her moving too fast, her needing control, and really her tapping into her own insecurities. This is the first time I personally think that we've really delved into Nate's insecurities, about how this is a really big decision and I'm anxious. I don't know what the best decision is, because if we do this and it doesn't work out, now I'm homeless and I don't want that. And she wants kids right away, but I need to be more established before that happens. And he's just kind of thinking about everything at once and it's snowballing in his head, and it's making him really anxious and nervous. And it's interesting to see that, because I feel like we don't get to see that side of Nate that often, where he's actually tapping into what he's feeling. And it's like, okay, it's refreshing to see. And I do like it. And I love that Stasha is picking up on that. She understands, okay, he's insecure, but I don't know how to guide him through those insecurities. And I don't know if it's her job to guide him through, or if it's her job to be patient while he deals with it himself. Like, I'm not really sure what the best form of action is for her. And I think it just depends on the person, right? You can have a person with really strong insecurities, and one type of that person may want somebody who kind of encourages them and like, no, you got this, you're all right, kind of be the cheerleader. Another type of person wants to be left alone while they deal with it themselves. I don't know which kind of person Nate is. And I feel like no matter what Sasha says, she kind of said this, that I can't really have a conversation with my husband because whenever I bring something up, it triggers him. And then he just hears what he wants to hear as opposed to everything I'm saying. He'll pick up on one or two words that he's heard from me. And now he's built this narrative around those two words without really hearing me. And I like that she's more in tune with him now, that she understands he's that way. But I also understand how frustrating that is, that I just want to talk to you about something and I feel like I can't even open my mouth to you. But it's weird because I understand from his standpoint that he's tired of hearing her as, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? I don't mean love in this marriage. Do you love me? I don't understand. Why don't you love me? I understand from his perspective. I'm tired of hearing that. You cannot rush me to love you. I told you that I am getting there every single day. I'm falling more and more for you. And I am getting there. I'm just not there yet. I don't love you just yet. I'm not in love with you just yet, but it is going in that direction. So he just wants her to trust him that is going in that direction. She needs to hear the words, like greatly needs to hear and feel the words. And I do understand from her perspective, because apparently he's been in a relationship before, but he was in a relationship for 2 years and he was not in love with that person. And she's like, well, I don't want to wake up 2 years from now and let's say we got a kid and we're already living together, but you still don't love me and you're not in love with me. Like, I don't want that kind of marriage either. So I understand both of them. I really get it, but you can't force that from him. So asking him repeatedly isn't going to make him love you any faster. And Nate is the kind of person where he's not going to lie to you. So he's not going to pretend to love you just to make you feel better about the situation. And you wouldn't accept that either. So I understand her frustration and I really understand his. And I feel like it's kind of a no-win situation a little bit. But yeah. And I put that in my notes. I think that she has a valid concern. She has a valid concern about, he was in a relationship for 2 years and he wasn't in love with the person. That's a valid that, if it happens to me. However, he's never been married before and Stasha is not his ex. So just because he was unable to love that person, that doesn't mean he's unable to love Stasha. But on paper, that doesn't really look good. It doesn't really bode well for her. So I don't really know what the solution is for that. I feel like because of Sasha's personality, it's hard for her to let that go and say, I don't want to love this marriage, blah, blah, blah. I understand, I get that. But I feel like for Nate, 2 months isn't a long amount of time. I need more time. So saying yes on decision day is saying, okay, I'm giving this more time. We're going to take this one day at a time. Let's see how things go. Let's see how we feel about each other. Let's see how the relationship continues to grow and to morph and all that stuff. So I think it's fair enough for her to give him more time. She can't put a time on that, though. You can't determine when somebody's going to love you. Like, there's no way, there's no way to do that. So, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. I think I understand both sides very well. So I can't even say one person is the villain over another person. Like in this situation, I don't think either one of them are really out of line for what their expectations are and what they're asking for. I think that Stasha continuously asking him, though, is frustrating because the way he's taking it, every time you ask me that or every time you bring it up, it's like you are dismissing and downplaying all the things that I have done up to this point. I've never given you any reason to believe that I am not in this with you. I signed the post-nuptial agreement that you wanted me to sign. We got tattoos together with our wedding date on it. I'm planning to move in with you and start this family with you. Like, I am making concrete steps to show you that I am in this. I am with you. We are going to have this life together. And I'm not getting credit for any of those things. And I feel like it just, it's upsetting. And he said, he basically said, I need positive affirmation. I need words of affirmation from you. I'm not getting it, which is building on my own insecurities, because I'm telling you what I need and I'm not getting it. And I was like, he's telling you what his love language is. His love language is words of affirmation. So if that's what he needs, that's what you need to give him so that he can feel love. Because right now he's feeling like he can't win. He's feeling like he's trying and failing with you because you're not telling him, hey, this is a good job. Hey, I appreciate this. Hey, I really see you trying in this area or whatever. If he's not feeling that, that's something to consider as well. And that is something that she needs to pay attention to. However, he also needs to think about her love languages. I feel like her love language may be words of affirmation as well. And it's definitely also acts of service. But I feel like he's done the acts of service part because he signed the post-nup and he got the tattoo. So it's like, okay, she needs to see me physically do this act. I have done this act. Now, what are you going to do now? So, and he said something that I thought was very key. He said, I don't want to be unhappy, and right now I choose happy over marriage any day. I 1000% agree with that, but there's one thing to be unhappy in that moment, and it's nothing to be unhappy overall in the marriage. And I think that the last few days of the experiment for them have probably been some of the rockiest that they've had, with no real conclusion. So I understand him being unhappy, but also she made a good point. She talked about how, when we've had issues before, the experts gave us tools to use, and we are not putting those tools to use. And they flash back to Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper's like, when you guys have these tough conversations, you need to hold hands. You need to look at each other. You need to remember that you're on the same team. And, when they had their very rough, intense conversation, he got up and he walked away, and she came after him, and he basically said, I don't love you. I'm not in love with you. And this is making me feel this kind of way, blah, blah, blah. And then he came back an hour later and then did the tools. And she was like, I know, but the tool's supposed to happen in the heat of the moment. That's the point. And he was like, I understand that, but in the heat of the moment, it's going to take me time to get there. In the heat of the moment, I was not able to think straight to put these tools to use, but I did come back an hour later and put the tools to use. So my issue was that even when I came back and I finally held your hand and we talked things through, you didn't even give me credit for that. So yes, I didn't do it the way I was supposed to do it, but eventually I got there and I did it, and I didn't get any credit from you for actually doing it at some point. And so I understand where he's coming from, and I feel it's a difficult situation, but I think that they can make it through. I think they both really want this. They want the relationship. They want to have the couple goals and the financial, generational wealth and all that stuff. They want the same things. And so my prediction is, actually, I did have a question real quick. He said that 2 months is not a long time, and he's not ready to say I love you. So the question I posed to you guys is, how long did it take you to say I love you the first time you said it to a spouse, a lover, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever? I know for my husband, it took me a month of realizing that I loved him. I don't know if I was in love. I don't think I was in love, but I definitely loved him after a month. It took him a lot longer to tell me. Actually, the first time he told me was 5 months after we met. But with him, I love you and in love kind of fell together. So in 5 months, he felt both. And, he took his time. He wanted to be sure about it. And I'm not going to rush you. I can't determine for you what you feel for me. That's not how that works. But how long did it take you guys? Just out of curiosity. Comment below. But yeah, my prediction for Stasha and Nate, I think Stasha is going to say yes. I think Nate's going to say yes too. I think he's going to base his decision not on the past 3 days, but just overall what's happened and also what he wants his future to look like. So my prediction is that they're both going to say yes and on decision day, and they'll stay married. Let's go to Krysten and Mitch. So before I even look at my notes, Krysten, I feel like is falling to the same, not trap, but following the same route that Justin is taking in terms of having her yes be dependent on what Mitch does and what Mitch's decision is. That's not supposed to be the case. Your yes or your no is based off of personally what you want long term and what you have seen short term. It's not supposed to be based off of, well, if he says he wants to stay married to me, of course I'm going to say yes. No, that's not the way it works. No. If he says yes on decision day, that's because he wants to stay married to you. That's fine. Your yes is not supposed to be dependent on his yes. Your yes is dependent on, okay, he sees this working out, but do I see this working out? Do I see things changing? Do I really see X, Y, and Z? If you don't see those things, then you're supposed to say no. So it made me mad because I feel like, as strong of a person as Krysten is, at least from this episode, I feel like she's settling. Like, she's asking for the bare minimum. I want him to say that he wants to stay married to me. I want him to say he sees a future for us. And that's all I need. No, that's not all you need, actually. Because he can say those words, but, like, you need more than that. You do. And so that kind of bothers me, because I really expected a little more from Krysten about that. And it's like, girl, no, what are you doing? Okay. And so when Mitch was talking to his friend, he said that when it comes to Krysten, he has a fondness and an affection for her, but he doesn't know if they're right for a lifetime of marriage. And the question I asked was, do you need, for this show specifically, I guess, do you feel like you need a guarantee that we're going to be married for a lifetime? Or is it enough to believe that it's worth giving it a try? Because in life, there are no guarantees. You can go the quote unquote traditional route of getting married, where you date somebody for a few years, get engaged for a little bit of time, and then get married, and it could still end in divorce 2 years later. So there are no guarantees at all in life. And I don't know if you ever really know if this person is right. I think you just go with your gut feeling that it's worth trying. It's worth seeing if this is right. It's worth seeing if this is going to last a lifetime. Obviously, the hope is always there, but you never really know. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, because I think a lot of people come in the show and they're looking for guarantees. They're looking for, okay, without a shadow of a doubt, you got to be committed to me. You got to do this. We're going to have this life. Nothing happens that way. Something is always coming up that's going to shake the foundation and that's going to mess up the plans that you've set for yourself. So all you can do is go based off of what you hope is going to happen, what you believe is going to happen, and then work towards that hope and work towards that belief. That's really all you can do, realistically, in this situation and in any other kind of relationship. She said that she feels at peace, so she got everything off her chest with him, and she has let him have it for the past couple of weeks. So I do agree with that. But she said the decision is hard for her because there's a lot of good there, but there's also a lot of uncertainty there. And I get that. And this made me upset. She says she wants a grand gesture to know. She basically wants him to say to her that, Krysten, I want you to say yes. It's like, it's not about him. It's frustrating. It's not about that. And I think what she's really saying is, I want to know that he wants me. I get that. But again, that still shouldn't really determine if you say yes or not. Because again, he can say that all day long. And I'm not saying that Mitch doesn't want her. And I kind of understand what she's saying, because I guess in this whole process, she felt like she's been going through the motions, trying to make him comfortable, make sure he understands how she feels, to really talk things through about the kind of future she wants, what he wants, whatever. But I guess she needs to physically hear those words. Krysten, I want you. You are the person that I want as my wife. I want to love you. I want us to have this life together. And she wants that. Mitch isn't that kind of person, though, either. I really like Krysten, so it makes me sad, because it's like, I'm not saying Mitch is a bad person at all, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the first couple weeks of them, it was all about Krysten trying to make him feel good. Then she kind of came to her senses and was like, well, no, because I'm getting lost in this and my voice isn't being heard and I need to speak up more. And then she started speaking up more and, kind of showing the real Krysten being a little more silly, a little more goofy, a lot more like upfront with stuff. But now she's kind of gone back to that person who wants to be married really badly and wants to know that my husband wants me. And that's all I need. As long as he wants me, I'll say yes. That's not enough, boo. That's not enough. It's not enough for me. Maybe that's enough for her. For me, I'd want more for her. I'll say that. And another thing he said to his friends that I thought was interesting, he said that he can't imagine being married to Krysten in his everyday life because this has not been everyday life. It's been the experiment. He's like, I've barely gone surfing. I've barely ridden my bike since we got married. But that was your personal choice. She never said you couldn't do those things. The whole point of the experiment is not so that you put your real life on hold and for these 8 weeks you just play being married in an apartment. No, it's for you to actually ingrain this wife or this husband into your everyday life. So you're still supposed to be going to work, still supposed to do the things that you like doing, but now you're supposed to incorporate this new person into your life and figure out what this new everyday life looks like for you. And I feel like Mitch didn't do that. He kind of like took his old self, put it on a shelf somewhere, did the show, and had like a new version of Mitch doing the show in this apartment with this dog, with this woman who has the title of his wife. But all the stuff that he loved to do and all the stuff that was a part of him, he left over there. Nobody asked you to do that. That was your own personal choice. So I thought it was weird that he's like, oh, but, I don't know how she's going to fit into my everyday life because, this isn't my life. Like, I've barely done this and I don't even do that. I do that stuff every day. Who's stopping you from doing that every day? That was your choice to not do those things. That was your choice to decide, I'm going to split myself into single Mitch and married Mitch. Nobody asked you to do that. So that's already not looking great, that you literally saw this as just kind of a vacation almost away from who you really are. That wasn't the purpose. You didn't take full advantage of this show and full advantage of this experiment if that's what you chose to do. That's not what anybody else, as far as I know, that's not what anybody else has done on the show. That's not the whole point. Like, no, you're not just married for the show. You're supposed to be married. The point is that you sign up for the show to be married for the rest of your life, to have this person. So that means this person is supposed to know you inside and out. And obviously you can't really know all of that in 8 weeks, but you're still supposed to incorporate them into your everyday life because that's the point of you being married to this person. It's supposed to be every day, and this is my life, and now this is our life. So I just think it's really strange. It's really, really strange. And I don't remember anybody doing this before. He did say that he thinks there's potential for them to still have their own lives, but figure out what their lives look like together and make it work. He says that he loves her, and he said that to Krysten later in the episode as well, but he's not in love with her. But I also believe that Mitch is the person who's not really had a long-term relationship. So has he ever really been in love? We don't know that. So he may not even know what that feels. He really may not. Yeah. She wants Mitch to say he wants to be married. And she asked Mitch she asked him, they had a really nice dinner. How do you envision our lives after these 8 weeks? I think it's a valid question. He said, I feel like everything was just so rushed with this thing. We did everything really fast. And I feel like if we both say yes on decision day, we should kind of take some time, basically take some time to ourselves, not rush into moving in with each other. It's only rushing to move in with each other if you guys haven't been living together the past 2 months. I don't understand, because this has happened before. People suggest this. It never works out. If you leave the show, you both say yes, and you don't move in with each other after the 8 weeks are up, it's never bode well for anybody who's chosen to do this. They always end up in divorce every single freaking time. Because that's a step backwards. What's the point? Yes, you rushed into this, but you also signed up for this. You signed up for this experiment knowing exactly what was going to happen, knowing you were going to get married, knowing you were going to go on a honeymoon, knowing you were going to move in with this person for the next 2 months. You knew all of this when you first signed on the dotted line saying that you were going to do this. So what is the rush now? It's not a rush anymore. Now you guys are still legally married. You've had this time to live together. So now what you need to think about is, okay, where are we going to live now? That's what needs to happen. So the fact that he doesn't even envision that for them, she was like, okay, not what I expected. I, wasn't really prepared to hear that. And he kind of left it at that. And it made me mad because she's putting everything in his hands. Because he asked her the same question. And she was like, well, you said that we weren't going to live together. So I guess, we're not going to live together. No. Why is he going to make that decision? Why are you putting that on him? And he asked you outright, what do you see? So that could have been your time to say, well, I saw us living together right away. I saw us looking for a place in this area, San Diego. That way it's halfway between your place and your place of work and my place of work. I saw us possibly getting a townhome, like something to say anything, not, oh, well, you said this, so that's what we're going to do. Why are you putting everything on him? Why? You're basing everything off of what he said that he wants, and that's not what a marriage is supposed to be. It really isn't. So I was really, yeah, I was sad about that. Like, girl, no, what are you doing? And then she said to him, when he said, you know, I like you, I love you, I'm not as passionate as I know you want me to be. I know I'm not everything that you need right now, but this is me. This is what I have to offer. I love having you in my life. I cannot imagine my life without you. I know that, and he said he's afraid of losing her. I know she needs to hear that. But she did say, anything I can get, I take with grace, though it's not what I want to hear. You don't say to your spouse, okay, well, anything I can get, this is what I get, okay, I'm going to take it. No. And I said this, like, she sounds like she's willing to settle for breadcrumbs when she really wants a loaf. Don't settle just because he's like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to lose you, and this is great, and I want this. It's like, those are really nice words to hear, but if you want more, say that you want more. Don't settle for it because you think that's all he can give you. And that's all he can give you, then maybe he's not the one you're supposed to be with. Duh. I mean, I think that's plain and simple. But when he also said he's afraid of losing her, I questioned, is he afraid of losing her, Krysten, or is he afraid of losing the marriage? Those are not the same things at all. Because you can like the person, Krysten, and say, I really like Krysten. I really love Krysten. I want Krysten as my wife. I want Krysten in my life the rest of my life. I don't want to lose Krysten. Or I've been waiting on my life to get married. I think it's my last chance to get married. I don't want to let this marriage go because I probably won't get married again if this marriage doesn't work out. That's very different. And I'm hoping he meant Krysten specifically, but I honestly don't know. Honestly don't know. He did say that she helped him become a better person, and he feels like they make a good team, and he told her that he loved her and that she was beautiful. She said she has love for him too. She didn't say I love you. She says I have love for you, but I don't think she's in love with him either because I feel like she's honest enough that she would have said that to him. So neither of them are in love with each other. They love each other, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I personally, again, it always depends on who they ask first, but on decision day, I think Mitch is going to say yes. I think Krysten should say no, but I think Krysten may say yes. That doesn't mean they're going to stay married, but I think on decision day, they both are going to say yes. So, my predictions. Alexis and Justin. Alexis will say no. Justin will say yes. Sasha and Nate. Both of them will say yes. Lindy and Miguel. Both of them will say yes. Mitch and Krysten. Both of them will say yes, but I don't think they're going to stay married. So those are my predictions for season 15. You guys, we are so close to being done. Oh, and if you watched last night's episode, after the episode, they had another like prediction thing where they brought back past cast members. They had Beth and Jamie, they had Brianna and Vincent, and then they had Rachel and they had Johnny. I told y'all I don't want to see Johnny on my screen ever again, so I refuse to watch it because I'm like, why do I care about y'all opinions on this show? Like, y'all were great when you were on the show, but I don't care about whether you think these people are going to make it or not. Doesn't mean anything to me, so I didn't watch it. If you guys watched it, tell me how it went. If you got any new revelations about anybody, let me know. But yeah, and the couples also rode go-karts in the street. That looked really fun. I guess it was like their last couples thing that they did before decision day, so that was cute. But yeah, so those are my predictions for the show. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with my predictions? Do you think something different? Do you think some people are going to say no that I said are going to say yes? Who do you think is going to really go the distance? Because it's one thing to say yes on decision day, but we all know by the time they do the reunion 6 months later, half of those people who said yes are no longer together anymore. So what do you guys think? Comment below. Make sure you like this video, share the video with your friends if you want, comment, click the notification bell, and also subscribe to my channel. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I'll see you guys next week for the finale.